This Mother's Day, give mom something she'll treasure forever with fine jewelry from BlueNile.com. And Locked On Sports listeners get $50 off of any purchase of $500 or more. Use code Locked On at checkout.
You are Locked On MLB, your daily MLB podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, baseball fans. Welcome to Locked On MLB, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. This is the daily podcast. We talk about all of Major League Baseball. I'm your host, Paul Francis Sullivan. As you can tell by my lower third there, you can always call me Sully. This episode is being dropped on the 4th day of May, 2022, and we're going to be talking about a New York state of mind. Could this be a Subway Series year? I wasn't expecting it, neither were you. And yet, both the Yankees and Mets look pretty dang good right now. I answer a few questions also that were sent to me via the many, many methods of getting a hold of me in the world of social media. Thank you so much for making us your first listen. As we're available on all your free podcasting catchers, you can follow us on Twitter at Locked On MLB Pods. Same handle for Instagram. I'm your pal Sully. I'm at Sully Baseball on Twitter, Sully Baseball Podcast on Instagram. I'm doing this from the classroom. Hey, by the way, apparently there were some tech problems in the last episode. A couple people said there were some hiccups in the sound. I apologize. I don't know what it was. I don't know where they were. It happens. Do you know what? Yeah, we all can't be the Yankees and go on an 11-game winning streak. Sometimes you're going to stub your toe. Someday you're going to get Wordle wrong. And I apologize. I don't know what the problem was. I did it the same way I always did. There was a hiccup. Hopefully there's going to be no hiccups here. As you can tell, I'm in the classroom trying to get this one in the can. And you know what? I apologize. I try to make these as good as I possibly can. Hey, two teams that are making it really good for their fans, the Mets and the Yankees. Let's talk about the Yankees initially as they're stampeding their way through Toronto, jumped ahead to a 7-1 lead. And, you know, the Yankees are on this 11-game winning streak. And I talked about this with Miller Thomas over the weekend. And the Yankees aren't getting spectacular years from some of their players. They're not getting a great season out of Stanton. Connor Falefa has hit okay, not great. But the pitching has been unbelievable. Tyon pitched a great game today. Wandy Peralta has been terrific. Castro has been great. And those are even their biggest names out of the bullpen. And, the fact of the matter is they're taking on teams like the Red Sox. They're taking on teams like the Blue Jays and not backing down from them. And they're winning games that, one of the things that they did, and Stacey Gotsuli's pointed this out several times in Locked On Yankees, is there's so many times they didn't go for the kill in the sweep. And the game here or a game there cost them. Now, they wound up going on a big winning streak in August that basically put them in position to get to the postseason. But, the confidence that will build up in a team like this when they don't stumble out of the gate. And it doesn't mean to say that Tampa started the year badly. They haven't, nor has Toronto. But the fact that the Yankees have just bolted ahead of everybody, it lays down the foundation, especially towards Cashman, especially towards Boone, who caught a lot of crap in the offseason. And I was the chief crap distributor towards those two. I thought that they basically put the team in a terrible position. Was I wrong? Maybe I was. My reasoning was sound because I felt it put too many things that were coin tosses in the Yankees' way. It's going to horrify me that I'm going to make this comparison. But the Red Sox in 2013 were a team that I thought were going to stink. Now, they're coming off of one of the worst teams in the history of the Red Sox, not just in terms of win-loss record, but also in terms of likability, and that was the Bobby Valentine 2012 Red Sox. And I looked at that Red Sox team going into 2013, and I thought too many things have to break right for that team to have a winning year. So I didn't think they're going to be particularly competitive. As it turned out, not all of them broke right, but a lot of them did. More often than not, things broke correctly for that team. And the team worked together. And they gelled. and they wound up winning a very unlikely World Series. Now, as a classic Yankee hater, that's not necessarily what I want with this team, but you have to acknowledge, at least as we're here in this early part of the season, the Yankees are putting down the foundation to build upon. And they're not even doing this with their offense running at full cylinders. They still have some holes in their lineup right now. They could still improve. And that's what's kind of scary about it right now. Now, I still think Toronto has the best team talent up and down. I still think Tampa is terrific. And obviously the Yankees aren't going to play at this level the whole season. But we see the Red Sox are off to a slow start. And that doesn't 100% surprise me. I don't like their pitching. I had the same thoughts about the Yankees. It just so happens that it was the question marks. There were so many question marks. And that was one of the things that I criticized Cashman for, was for a team that has such a gigantic payroll to have so many question marks seemed unconscionable. Easy for you to say. And yet, things clicked. I tip my hat to them. So far, so good. We'll see how it plays out over the long haul, but we know that they're starting correctly. We know that things are unfolding the right way, which brings us over to the Mets. Now, the Mets played 2 super fast games on Tuesday. They won a doubleheader. They swept the doubleheader with Atlanta. Now, Carlos Carrasco pitched 8 innings of shutout ball. I wonder why they didn't have him finish it. Just give the guy a complete game shutout. That doesn't matter. Lugo got the save, and it was it was a fine game that was pitched by Kyle Wright of Atlanta, who's having a wonderful year. But Pete Alonso, it was the Pete Alonso day, because in the game 1, where the Mets held on to a 5-4 victory, where they beat Morton, Diaz got the save, Alonso got a couple of RBI hits, set up the 5-4 victory, and then he hit a solo home run in the 3-0 victory. So it was the Pete Alonso day at the plate, in terms of offense. And the Mets right now are playing. Look, they did lose that game the other day, but if they win the day game on Wednesday, that's yet another series that they won, and they just keep winning these series. They're 18-8 as I'm recording this. They've won 7 of their last 3. Okay? And they're beating teams like the Phillies. They're beating teams like the Atlanta Braves. Again, a point that I've made over and over again, that these games are critical because they are division rivals. If the Mets want to throw elbows and win the division, they got to win these head-to-head games. And here's the scary thing about the Mets, because their pitching staff has been breathtaking. And who's going to be pitching tomorrow in the game, or I guess today, for those of you listening to it, where the Mets are sending McGill, which I had to look up right now, whether is it Tyler or whether it's Taylor. It's actually Tyler McGill, Mr. No-Hitter, at least the first 5 innings of it. They're doing this without deGrom. deGrom can take his time. Imagine if deGrom comes in and is deGrom, even 3/4 deGrom, and healthy and ready to go. Heck, at the All-Star break. That's like making a massive trade. Now, I make no bones about the fact I'm not a Yankee fan. I'm not necessarily a Mets fan, although I have many, many Mets fan friends. I'm just kind of drooling to see Buck Showalter finally win a World Series. The 3 managers out there, if they finally win a World Series this year, it's the one piece of the resume, of their Hall of Fame resume, that would complete him. Dusty Baker, I don't want to hear any crap about Dusty Baker. Okay? Is he unorthodox? Sure. So what? He took the Giants to the playoffs, the Cubs to the playoffs, the Reds to the playoffs, the Nationals to the playoffs, and the Astros to the playoffs. He took teams in both leagues to the World Series. If he wins a World Series with Houston, which he probably could, put him in Cooperstown. No questions asked. The other 2, Bob Melvin. Padres are looking pretty good so far. And you consider the fact he managed so well in Arizona and in Oakland. never got a pennant to show for it, but he did so with unlikely teams. If he wins a World Series in San Diego, you got to put him in the Hall of Fame as a manager. And Showalter, who's been a Johnny Appleseed of pennants and contenders throughout baseball, he deserves one. Absolutely deserves one. And can you imagine if he won it in New York, where he got his established himself as the Yankee manager? If it wasn't for the strike, he probably would have gotten a ring. But the fact of the matter is, these two teams, at least right now, look like they're insanely rootable for their fan base. And Stanton hasn't heated up yet. And we all know what he's capable of doing. Hell, he and Judge carried the Yankees to the postseason last year. And the Mets haven't had deGrom yet. So, yeah, these are great starts. But there are some parts of it that you look at them and go like, hey, they could put the aft thrusters on, and one of these teams could get a ring. And that could be one of those special life moments that can be celebrated with jewelry, kind of like what you get at BlueNile.com. Look at whether it's everyday fine jewelry like cocktail rings or tennis bracelets or a beautiful wedding ring or band, BlueNile.com has you covered. They're the original online jeweler since 1999, where there was almost a Subway Series, except Kenny Rogers walked Andrew Jones. Well, I digress. They've helped millions of couples create their perfect engagement ring. BlueNile.com offers expert advice 24/7 with legendary service and 30-day returns. When you commit to a piece, so does Blue Nile. They have guaranteed service and repair for life and the Blue Nile Diamond Price Guarantee. Contact Blue Nile to compare a competitor's diamond against one of Blue Nile's, and in most cases, it will be matched or even they'll beat their price. In most cases, Blue Nile can deliver overnight. Every order is insured and arrives in a discreet package, so it won't go away. So here's the deal. You go to BlueNile.com and you use promo code Locked On. You can get $50 off a purchase of $500 or more. This podcast exclusive is only good through Mother's Day. Use code Locked On. That's code Locked On. Plus, every order is insured and ships for free. That's right. Go to BlueNile.com today, shop stress-free, and find your forever peace. Hey, let's talk a little bit about Locked On Now. I want to thank you so much for making Locked On MLB your first listen. For your next listen, check out the Locked On Now podcast, recaps of Major League Baseball games with analysis from our local experts, taking fans through the season like no other network, free and available wherever you get your podcasts. I'm going to open up the mailbag a little bit here, and I get stuff whether it's on the Locked On MLB YouTube page, whether it's at Sully Bay. The easiest way if you want to get a hold of me in terms of the world of social media is to contact me at Sully Baseball on Twitter. You can see that on my lower third right there. Or maybe you want to contact me, Sully Baseball Podcast, on Instagram. Travis Hillary wrote me this a few weeks ago, and I'm just getting to it right now. Hey, Sully. Hey, Travis. Just a little bit ago, you talked about how the universal DH is here, and Major League Baseball should get rid of the NL and the AL and just be under one roof. If this were to happen, my question then, how will things like the playoffs and season awards work? Thanks for the great stuff. That's a great question. I've thought about this a lot. The universal DH is here. I'm not crazy about it, but it's here, and I'm not going to scream at the tides. There's a lot of other things in baseball I would change right now. I like the quirkiness that the National League the pitchers hit. American League, they didn't. I like the DH. I like no DH. I can like more than one thing. I like the movie Amadeus. I like the movie The Avengers. I can like more than one thing. But that battle's been lost. There's a couple other battles that are worth fighting for, especially the stupid runner on second base that stinks an extra innings. I digress. The compromise I made in terms of saying whether or not there's going to be universal DH or not is the notion of, okay, there's now officially no difference between the American League and the National League. There is none. So why are we creating this farce that there is? why would we not take advantage of geographical rivalries? In fact, we kind of got a glimpse of it when we saw what happened during the COVID season, where the East teams only play the East, Central teams only play the Central, West teams only play the West. It was kind of fun. There was a lot of games between the A's and the Dodgers and the Giants and the Angels and the Red Sox and the Phillies. There were a lot of those kind of games. My how I would build things is I've said this before, I would have 4 divisions, geographical: North, South, Central, West. That's how it would be. I haven't worked out all the kinks. You could probably figure out some of the South teams would be like, the Braves and the Marlins and the Astros and the Rangers, and they would be there. Teams like the Red Sox, Mets, Yankees, Phillies, they would all be in theirs. The Centrals would have teams like the Cubs, the White Sox, the Brewers, the Cardinals. They'd be all in the Central, and the West would be the Mariners and all the California teams. There are some which would be going, okay, where does Pittsburgh fall? Where does Toronto fall? We'd have to figure all that out. But I think that you would have, I think you'd also have to expand by 2 teams. I think there's more than enough players to expand by 2 teams. You also have to figure out what's going on in Tampa Bay and in Oakland. But you figure out what Tampa Bay is going to be. I hope they stay in Tampa Bay. You figure out what Oakland's going to be. You hope they stay in Oakland. Expand to 2 more teams. Boom. You have 4 divisions with 8 teams. And you do the playoffs within the division. Now, you could say, top 4 teams in the division. I guess that'd be half the teams in baseball participating in the postseason. Maybe you have it be the top 2 teams, and they play, and then you kind of seed them by which team has the best record, and and you still call the end part the World Series, just like it's still called the Super Bowl, even though the AFC and the NFC have merged. Still the Stanley Cup, even though it wasn't originally the NHL Stanley Cup. So you still call it the World Series. It still have the records and everything like that. It's a really interesting question about the awards. I actually had never thought about the awards. They kind of in the NFL and the NBA, there's only one MVP. So maybe you have, maybe you spread the awards out that you have. I'm just spitballing right here that you have a nominee from each division. The top pitcher of the West, the Central, the North, whatever the divisions are going to be, the top rookie and all that. So, and then you have a big award show, and you have the 4 nominees. Each one brings a nominee to the table, and then the MVP of the American League or the MVP of Major League Baseball is from those 4 finalists. I think there should be an award. There should be the end of the season should be what they do. I like what they do with all the games start at once. And then before the playoffs begin, they announce the MVP, Cy Young Award, Rookie of the Year, and all that. So that going into the postseason, there's already a certain amount of excitement about this person won the Cy Young and this, that, and the other thing. And also it forever ends how did that person win the MVP? They lost in the first round. No, actually, there's a regular season award. Dumb people. Forget it. But that's a great, Travis, I never thought of that. And so I'm just spitballing right here. Maybe that'll work. Maybe that won't. So there you go. Hey, this is another one. Mason said, sorry to slide into your DMs like this. And he doesn't have Twitter. Mason sent me this via Instagram at Sully Baseball Podcast. Big fan of Locked On MLB. Well, I'm a big fan of you, Mason. I want to watch a classic World Series, but I haven't paid attention to any baseball before like 2000. What would be a good classic series to watch? This is a great question because I love watching old baseball games on YouTube. I just love watching the old broadcasts, and I just like seeing them unfold. The greatest World Series, and Mason, if you're not familiar with pre-2000 baseball, it's great. It's a great, great treasure trove of terrific games to watch. The greatest World Series I ever saw play was the 1991 World Series between Minnesota and Atlanta. And to me, there was only one clunker in that entire series. 7-game series, lots of walk-offs, lots of huge home runs, lots of great pitching, lots of great defense, trick plays, all sorts of stuff happened in that. And the interesting, if you start to watching some of these great series from beforehand, you would see that a lot of them are played at cookie cutter stadiums or domes, which I'm actually nostalgic for. There's a lot of artificial turf. It's a lot faster. Use a lot more stolen bases. There's a lot more, balls into the gap and runners going from first to third. Pitchers stayed longer in games. There's a faster pace to the game. So I think the 1991 World Series is definitely one you would want to check out. There's some other there's some other great series. The 1992 World Series, interestingly, between Toronto and Atlanta was almost as good. The one thing that series didn't go 7. So you didn't have that game 7 showdown. You almost did, but you didn't have that game 7 showdown. So the one thing that made that not quite as good. So I would start with those two. I also think the greatest postseason series to watch, because it unfolds in such an like the games are unbelievable. Watch the 1980 National League Championship Series between the Houston Astros and the Philadelphia Phillies. Arguably the greatest postseason series ever played. Tons of Hall of Famers. The games were just unbelievably competitive and going back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. And I'm not even going to tell you who won, because if you're not familiar with baseball pre-2000, you may not know who won. So I just think it's just great baseball to watch. And I mean, there's so many great games, individual games in the 1980s that are really worth watching. Obviously, people remember the Game 6 of the 86 World Series. Check out Game 4 and 5 of the 1986 American League Championship Series, and watch the whole NLCS between Houston and the New York Mets. It's really just great baseball that was played there. And, just check out those games. And I'll tell you, there are individual games to watch, like the 4th game of the 1988 National League Championship Series between the Mets and the Dodgers is a fantastic game. Really, really, white knuckle back and forth. And those are some good places to start. I think a great game to watch, not just because it was a wonderfully exciting game and competitive game with lots of stars, but it might be one of the best announced games of all time, was Game 1 of the National League Championship Series of 1979 between the Pittsburgh Pirates and the Cincinnati Reds. You had Joe Garagiola, Tony Kubek, and Don Sutton were the 3 announcers. It's a wonderfully exciting game, extra inning game between 2 super exciting teams with really bright, colorful, wacko uniforms. It's the broadcast is just exquisite, absolutely exquisite. The ABC used to do a weird, that was an NBC broadcast. ABC, where they had like Howard Cosell, Al Michaels, Keith Jackson, Don Drysdale. A lot of them would be their announcers that they would have there. Sometimes Earl Weaver or Reggie Jackson. They had a weird thing that they used to do in their broadcast where they would cut to the players' wives reacting to stuff. And it was a weird tradition that they had because sometimes they cut to them when something bad happened. And Howard Cosell would mention things about the wives as if he knew them, as if he knew Bake McBride's wife or something like that, which bordered on creepy. Well, I'll tell you one of the great thing. Joe Garagiola, who I think is the greatest baseball announcer of all time, may he rest in peace, had a thing, at least in 2 of the World Series, 3 of the World Series that he announced, the 1980, 82, and 84 World Series. He called the final pitch and he said nothing. And he would say, the crowd will tell you what happened. And when the Phillies in 80, St. Louis Cardinals in 82, Detroit Tigers in 84, when they won the World Series, there was no Joe Garagiola call of, and the Tigers win the World Series. You just hear the roar of the crowd. And it's really something else. It's really something else. Michael Breitling wrote to me, Sully, your theory of 7 is spot on. I was 7 in 1982, and that was the year I became a lifelong baseball fan. The 82 playoffs are burned into my brain forever. I was cheering for the Brewers, so it also taught me that sports can break your heart. I mentioned the rule of 7 is something I firmly believe in, is that you get your first real concrete memories of being a sports fan when you're around 7 years old. And my earliest memories of that 79 World Series. The 82, well, the 82 postseason is pretty wild. There are some clunkers in it. the Angels had one of the most star-studded teams you ever saw in your life, and somehow the Brewers, who were without their ace reliever, managed to win that pennant, but lost the World Series to St. Louis. Those are some really fun games in there. Check out the final game between the California Angels and the Milwaukee Brewers in that American League Championship Series. So I'm glad you think so. I really think that's true. When you think about when I've talked to people about their early favorite teams, you know what? It almost inevitably their earliest memories are of teams when they're around, 7 years old or so. So that's just some of the notes I've been getting in there. Got one more segment, need a little boost of energy to get through it. So why not grab yourself a Built Bar? You know, summer's coming. With summer, you're going to need some food on the go. Built Bars are the perfect snack to take with you on family vacations. Throw them in the bag, the kids' backpack. Make sure everyone has a bar so you're fueled for your summer adventures. Best part about Built Bar, they're healthy, they're delicious. No more sacrificing delicious food for health. With Built Bar, you can have both, and it's easy. All you have to do is go to Built.com and order now. They're all covered in 100% real chocolate, whether it's Built Bars or Built Puffs. That means Built Bar, you can eat healthy, enjoy yourself doing it. Built Bar Puffs are great. They got great flavors like banana cream pie, churro. Who doesn't want a protein bar that tastes like a churro? I know I do. And if that's not a flavor for you, you may want to try the Mix Box. The Mix Box comes with 12 flavors and puffs. Built Bar, make sure that there's something for everybody. You know what my favorite flavor is? It's the raspberry. Now, most Built Bars contain 130 calories, 4 grams of sugar, 4 grams of net carbs, 17 grams of protein. Compare that to a candy bar, which usually has about 240 calories, 30 grams of sugar, and dozens of net carbs. Go to Built.com to get all your favorites: banana cream pie, raspberry, double chocolate, and so many more. They're all delicious, and new flavors are coming out all the time. Check them out at Built.com. Use promo code LOCKED15 to get 15% off your order. Use promo code LOCKED15 for 15% off at Built.com. Well, it's official. The New York Yankees continue their winning streak. They beat the Blue Jays 9-1. They blew the doors off the dump with a 6-run seventh inning. I'm sorry. Hey, Michael Wacha has been quite a pickup for the Boston Red Sox. I really poo-pooed that, but he's pitched quite well. Thank you very much. Got a win, and the Angels lost in Boston. A bunch of games are still going on as I record this, but for listeners on the audio feed, I'm going to play you part of my interview I did with Stacey Gotsulias a few weeks ago, where we went on a little bit of a tangent. I did include it on the audio feed because the show was going a bit long. I have already included it on a previous episode on the video feed. So if you're a YouTube fan, that's it for the show for the day. If you're an audio fan, well then please continue to listen to the podcast while I play the part of the interview with Stacey Gotsulias. But video fans, you can follow us at Locked On MLB Pod, same handle for Instagram. Follow us at Sully Baseball Podcast on Instagram. Talking about a New York state of mind, which is winning, and answering some questions. And feel free to send them my way. This has been Locked On MLB for the 4th day of May, 2022. I'm your host, Paul Francis Sullivan. Please call me Sully.